Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing MrQuest in a 15-minute game on chess.com. It's another climbing the rating ladder video. 15 minutes, no increment. Hopefully MrQuest is there. Otherwise, I'm going to be stopping this recording real soon. Alright, he is there. D4. Okay, let's play knight f6. What opening can I play today and possibly find myself in trouble with today? Because if you watched my last standard video, it was pretty touch and go. Okay, let's play into a Benko Gambit if I can. So c5, I think white's best move is d5. That's what I play myself. And we're going to Gambit the pawn and see how MrQuest reacts. The Benko Gambit has been a part of my repertoire for a long time. I first learned it from FIDE master Robbie Adamson. Shout out to Robbie if he happens to be watching. And knight f3 is a way to decline the gambit. I can stay flexible here. I think I'm going to play g6 and give him another chance to take. If you take, that pawn will be lost eventually. So usually white can play knight c3, e4. Okay, he does take now. So this is the main idea of the Benko Gambit, a6. You're gambiting a pawn on the queen side, so white's getting a 2-for-1 if they capture. But you obtain a lot of open lines, and the play becomes pretty interesting. Okay, knight c3. Very tempted to capture here. Yeah, let's take. And if white takes, that knight could be a little overextended. Queen a5 check is one of the first moves that comes to mind, which would force the knight back to c3. Okay, d6. So now this is going in a rather unpredictable direction. So d6. If I take, I'm predicting, or I'm guessing that white's going to play knight takes b5 and try to take on d6. This may not be a bad move for me, but I'll also consider playing e6. e6, knight takes b5. Again, can't draw arrows today. e6, knight takes b5, queen a5 check. Knight comes back to c3, maybe bishop g7. I think this pawn will probably be kind of weak in the long run. So I may not take it. I could also play b4. Could definitely think about that, although knight b5 looks a little bit annoying, threatening knight c7. So interesting move by my opponent trying to take the initiative. Yeah, I'm not sure about taking, and then after takes, I could maybe play queen b6, but the structure, not something I'm super thrilled about, so I'm more so leaning towards playing e6. I think I'm going to do that. Let's play e6. So a bit of a think on that move. 1 minute on my clock, but seemed like an important decision. I think bishop a6 was also a fine move if I wanted to go that route. Okay, let's play check. I want to back this knight off, make it go here. And then I think next I'm going to play bishop g7. Could also play knight to e4. Knight e4 if I want to attack c3 twice and also attack d6, but feels to me like the bishop should go to g7. Another move here is bishop a6. If I want to preempt any attempt by white to play a move like e3 and get the bishop involved on this diagonal, I could just trade it on f1 if white does that. Let's play bishop g7 though. So interesting pawn configuration already, with white having this d6 pawn all the way up there. But it's hard to support. Okay, knight d2. Another unexpected move. Looks to me like white's trying to come to c4 with that move. So the first thing that crosses my mind is bishop a6. Helpful Benko move, stop knight c4. He could go to b3 instead, but seems simple enough for me to back off my queen. Yeah, I wonder if bishop a6, knight b3, queen b6, bishop e3 gives me any problems. Could be a little annoying. Here, knight b3, queen b6, bishop e3, just an outright attempt to win this pawn on c5. Somehow looks like white should be punished for their backward development in that line, but don't see anything off the top of my head. Bishop a6, knight b3, I could play queen b4, but white can always just play a3 and kick me back there. I don't think that changes much. But then the knight's a little weaker. Okay, I think I will do this. So I'm thinking knight b3, queen b6, or sorry, queen b4 rather. Knight b3, queen b4, and if a3, queen b6. There's knight a4 there as well. Okay. Well, I can try to make it a double pawn sacrifice. I can always bring the queen back to b. No, I can't bring it back to b4. Okay, well, this will be interesting, however this turns out. Queen b4, a3, queen b6, knight a4 is perhaps a critical line here. A3 played. Any other moves I should consider other than queen b6? I don't think so. There's probably not too many other decent moves here. Yeah, I'm going to play queen b6. Now, if bishop e3, my original idea was this. Bishop c4. I really like getting in bishop c4 if possible. Knight takes c5, queen takes b2 looked pretty excellent. Yeah, but knight a4 might be more of a problem. Okay, so white's going to win c5, but I will be ahead in development somewhat. White's a few moves away from being able to castle here. So queen c6 comes to mind. Queen c6, knight takes c5, and maybe just castle or bishop c4. Probably bishop c4, slight preference for that. Yeah, let's play here. Okay, knight a5. I can't predict these moves. Knight a5. I saw that I had b5 against this, and that seemed fine. Queen b5, I guess maybe bishop d2 is playable. With the idea of e3. But I could always play queen b5, bishop d2. Well, knight c6, e3, I would have to back off with my queen. Okay. Queen c8, another move. These knights look kind of precariously placed, but don't know how to punish them. Actually, queen c8 runs into knight here, although even that's not so clear. Queen d8. Knight takes, bishop d2. You can probably get out via c7. Another move maybe to briefly consider here is bishop takes e2. Looks very odd. But knight takes c6, bishop takes d1 is the point. Ooh, that gets real wild. Some crazy tactics here already. Yeah, queen b5 was my first instinct, but I'm not really sure what to do after bishop to d2. Just defending the knight and threatening e3. Actually, a very annoying move. So, I'm kind of drawn to this move, to be honest. Looks very weird to play that. But might be playable. Queen b3 is a possible option there. Position's getting crazy. Bishop takes e2. Bishop takes e2, queen b3. And if I take a5, white's gonna take on b8 is the problem with check. So that is actually a problematic line. Queen d5 doesn't look correct. Queen d5, white can trade and then take c5. Although maybe then I can take on e2. Yeah, it doesn't look right though. Using a lot of time here. Yeah, I don't think I'm in a good position at all, if you haven't noticed already. This queen b5, bishop d2 thing is a real issue. I guess I'm leaning towards bishop takes e2 or queen d5 here. But bishop takes e2, queen b3 is the line I can't really solve. As much as I would like to play that. Maybe I can play... No, I can't even do that. Can't play queen d5 at that point. Okay. Honestly, for lack of a better move, I'm going to play queen d5. So if knight b6, I can trade queens with check and then play rook a7. If queen takes d5, I'm going to play knight takes d5, knight takes c5, take e2, and then try to get a pawn back this way. I do open my bishop, so that's one nice thing with this. Yeah. So now I got to play a little faster because remember, there's no increment in this. And I spent 4 minutes on move 14 here deciding on queen d5. So this is a discovery on the knight on a5. Let's take. So now I'm on the knight. So assessing the material, I'm down a pawn. I'm facing these connectors. That's probably the biggest issue I'm going to face here is these two connected pawns. I have some nice activity for the moment. My bishop pressuring this pawn. Here I'm thinking about castling or playing knight c6. I think I'm probably just going to castle first. Yeah, let's castle. Look to play knight c6 and maybe finally get a Benko move in, rook b8. Bring the rook over to pressure white's queenside pawns. That would be nice. Yeah, let's develop now. Get this in the game. Knight d4 possibility. Again, rook b8. If bishop here, I might be able to take on b2. Although I think rook b1 is actually a pretty good reply to that. Yeah, take, because if he takes a5, I can take a1. And material-wise, that works out all right, because if rook takes a1 back, I have knight takes a5. But yeah, if takes rook b1 is an issue. So I probably should drop the rook back here. I'm thinking to a7. Rook a4 comes to mind, but I don't like knight c5 against that. So probably better just to go here. And now maybe bring this over. Interesting. Okay, he uses that rook. So let's bring this one over. Since he used this rook, this pawn on b2 is still pinned. So we'll see how he extricates himself from that. I have knight d4 as an option too, but I think he'll probably just play bishop to d1 if I play that. So saving his bishop and covering b3. I might play knight d4, but I want to wait and see how this plays out. Okay, a4. So he says, go ahead and take that pawn. I'm not going to stand in your way. Fair. Okay, so I could take with the rook is one thing that comes to mind. If I take with the bishop, I'm in a bit of a pin. Another thing that comes to mind is he might have bishop to b5 in some situations now, with the pawn supporting here. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards not taking that pawn at the moment. Like maybe knight d4 again. Or even f5. f5 is an interesting move. Could certainly think about playing knight d4, bishop d1, knight here. But I don't like the weakness of my back rank after that. f5 also is a interesting move. f5 maybe knight c3 though. Looks like it's helpful for him. This move, maybe, and if b3 take his rook here. So if here, bishop b5, maybe then knight d4 is possible. That strikes me as interesting. Let's try that. Very low on the clock now, 3:21. Gotta hustle. This is going to be a real test, guys. You never know how these games are going to go. Even though this is climbing the rating ladder. You just never know. Okay. So he kind of pivots back. Let's play bishop here. Try to get ready for f5 and then maybe taking this pawn. So putting a stop to these pawns for now. I think bishop d1 was a nice move for him to defend. Also stays out of range of my knights. He could play knight c3 if he wants to try to trade. Looking to play f5 though, very soon, and possibly pick off this pawn. If I get my bishop to d6, it's not going to be trained against the b2 pawn, but I may be able to stop b4 in the future. For the moment, his pawns are stuck on their current squares. I mean, you could attempt to play a5, but I think I'll just pick off the pawn if he does that. Okay, at least he's pausing to think here. It gives me a little more time to assess the situation. It's a complicated position. I feel like white's better here, but the game is going to continue to be sharp, I think. And if I can get f5 in and maybe take the pawn on d6, I have a fighting chance. Okay, so that looks like a very strange change of direction. So I can take, but I guess his idea is eventually knight c5, huh? Tempted just to play knight d4 here. F5, knight c5. So, yeah, let's play knight d4. I feel like at minimum this is going to force him back to d1. Does not feel to me like he wants to allow this, or possibly even this. Okay, bishop e3. Well, now I can win the a4 pawn if I want. Could also take and play knight c2. But I think... let's take once. So if he takes back, probably take. And then either f5 or rook takes a4. I can't decide. Both are possible. Here too I have options. Knight c2. I'm going to get rid of this bishop. I do not like that bishop just lurking. Okay, this move is totally forced for him. What? I do not understand. King h1? I don't get it. I'm at a loss for words. G takes f3 was just completely fine. Okay, now I should be winning. Let's save the knight. Now, clock's still an issue, though. So can't completely relax here. I think I can take b2. Looks like it. Take b2, rook a2, knight c4. And go after this pawn. Yeah, this pawn's falling. And he'll probably play knight d3, but I can drop my bishop back to safety. Also could play knight takes e3 against that. That might be just a good, solid move to play. Here, take. Okay, he defends. Yeah, let's take here. And now I can even play rook a1 if I really want to get all the pieces off the board. Yeah, even here, rook a1 is possible. Rook a1, knight takes b2, I take b1, and then take. And there's back rank issues for him. Yeah, I think that checks out. Okay, under a minute, but I play a lot of bullet. And note, he can't take because of the back rank. So that's the point of this rook a1 operation. So let's bring the knight back, attack this pawn. For rook b7, I can play rook d8. Then I'm going to pick this pawn up. Okay, let's take. Rook d1, rook a6. And slowly advance here. King g3 always runs into knight e4 now with this rook on d2. So let's attack this. If e4, I think rook e3 is a nice move. Force further simplification or win a pawn. Give him a choice whether to trade, which deprives him of his real only dangerous piece here, or lose the e4 pawn outright. Okay, check. My knight's controlling this square, so that's a nice check to give. Also controlling d2. I'm going to go here and promote this pawn with the help of the knight. Okay, and he resigned. Yeah, that game had me real concerned. I thought I was in big trouble based on the clock and just not really being able to win one of these pawns cleanly. But totally bizarre error from my opponent after knight takes f3. Just king h1, whereas g takes f3, I was saying, was forced. Got to recapture. And then I was going to play f5. Because rook takes a4, there always seem to be issues with this capture of the a or the b pawn. Like here, he gets to play this move. Although, in fairness, this may be all right. But it looks a little dangerous for me. This pawn's ready to roll. I suppose this pawn needs to be defended, so maybe I'm still good here. Now, before I click into the analysis of this, let's try to figure out where I could have played this better. Because, as I said, I was on the defensive in this game. So knight f3, totally legitimate move against the Benko Gambit. Taking the pawn is definitely the main line. Takes and then a6. And I think capturing is promising for white. E3 is the line I recommend for white in my chessable repertoire. There's other moves, b6 for instance, totally playable. Even f3 is playable here. The idea of takes, e4. But yeah, knight f3, completely fine way to decline the gambit. So I played g6 trying to keep the tension, and then he took. Yeah, I was just really kind of caught off guard by some of the moves white played because they didn't seem so harmonious, but then all of a sudden I had issues. Like knight d2, it feels like white should be underdeveloped. One thing I want to check with the computer is how I should handle this d6 move. I think e6 may be a mistake. And maybe I'm better off playing something like queen b6, perhaps. Now that I look at it. Defend this pawn. You know, we could have a trade here. I was hesitant to allow some sort of damage to my king side like that. But that may be better. I think that's one moment where I felt in playing the game that the advantage was, or especially on the next few moves, the advantage was swinging over to my opponent. Maybe he had the advantage the entire time. I am playing black in a Benko Gambit, for instance, to be fair. So I do think the Benko is a little bit dubious when it comes to mainline d4 defenses. It's one reason I don't play it so much against grandmasters and title players anymore. I think in some of the main lines, black does have a tough time. But definitely going to check this moment after d6. Yeah, I really felt like my play down the long diagonal would give me sufficient compensation, and I felt like this pawn would be an issue later, but yeah, knight d2 looking for this, and also knight b3. And I really underestimated the attack on this and this. Because originally I missed the knight a4 move in this line. I was only focused on white playing bishop e3, and then I was looking at playing this, attacking this. And if knight takes c5, because no, bishop takes c5 runs into queen takes b3, I win a piece. So knight takes c5, take here. And actually, even this line I'm not so sure about, because my queen is a ways away from home. There may be some way to try to trap me, I'm not sure. Like knight here, I guess I have this move. Yeah, even this looks a little touch and go, I'm not sure. So definitely going to focus a lot on that main sequence here. Yeah, and another turning point was after knight a4, queen c6, knight a5. I just couldn't come up with a good move. Queen b5 seems like the natural move here to attack the knight, but I think bishop d2 and just this threat of e3 or e4 attacking the queen. I just did not see a good remedy to this. It's hard to push c4 because I guess I could play it here, but e3 and bishop takes c4 is a threat. So I ended up playing to the center after that was played. I think I'm going to click over to the analysis board. I'm not going to add the engine yet first. Just because when I'm playing an alternative move here, you can see it jumps to the end of the game. So it may be easier just to click on the analysis board and play through some of the lines this way. So I played queen c6, knight a5, queen d5, and I burned a lot of time trying to find this line. Yeah, I was trying to make bishop takes e2 work. But I think queen b3 was the move that bugged me here. Surprising move. Bishop, like, this already shows how crazy this game is. Bishop takes e2 with the idea that if white takes back, I can take here, and I'd have a double attack on the knight. Also, maybe queen takes g2 coming. But when you're looking at in-between moves, you know, your opponent can perhaps in-between you back, and queen b3 may create problems for me. Queen's under attack. The bishop's still hanging. And there's some serious problems with b8. That's one reason I don't like this. If I move my queen, let's say queen d5, and then white just plays bishop takes e2, I can't play rook takes a5 here because queen takes b8 is checkmate. I guess I could play queen takes b3 and then take this one, but this too looks kind of like the game, and I have a feeling I'm in trouble here. So I'm trying to extract some useful teaching points for you guys because, you know, this is climbing the rating ladder, and I always try to make my videos instructive. But the reality is, guys, this was a sharp game, and I was fighting for my life in the middle game. On the clock and on the position, I think I was a lot worse. So, and that's going to happen sometimes in chess. Like, you're going to play, you guys watched my video yesterday, everything was flowing super nice. I reeled off a 5 out of 5 score in that clock as a weapon video. Just feeling really good. And then I sit down and play this game, first game I played today, after working all day, and boom, just in difficulties right away. It's going to happen. So I think it's important for you guys to realize that on your chess journey. It's not all rainbows and sunshine. I did feel like once we both got castled, and especially when I brought the rook over to b8, I felt like at this point I had at least stabilized things, and even though I'm still down a pawn and facing 2 connected pawns, I felt like I had things under control more or less, in that I wasn't going to lose right away. So a4 is a pretty interesting move. I think a good move. Because white's letting me take this pawn, but if I take, let's say I just take in the most direct way, white's going to play rook a2. And I just have a feeling this a pawn is going to be a big problem. I got to move the attacked bishop. So let's say I play bishop e5. It's still sharp. Maybe I can get an f5 and go take this d6 pawn, but I was a little concerned about the a pawn running with the help of the bishops shepherding it along the way. Maybe I overestimated this. Maybe f5 and bishop takes d6 is fine. So that's another moment I'll check out with the computer. Yeah, and bishop d1 I thought was a good move by him. I played bishop e5, looking for f5 to try to win this pawn back. Didn't see a way to win the a or the b pawn here. Yeah, bishop e3. I don't like these two moves by white, but then again, I don't think I was refuting them per se. And if white had played g takes f3, I think there's everything to play for here. I probably would have played f5. f5, and if knight c5 I can take here, hopefully drive the knight away and win this pawn. There's some endgames possible, like if b4, let's say. I may just take. We could get some trades going here. I guess in this case white might have a check, or just rook b7 right away. Although, yeah, the check, king here, and then rook b7 is perhaps nice for white, because if I step here, there's c6. So I have to be a little careful. Maybe step here. This should be a draw. This is... Actually, no. I am up a pawn here, so I guess white's still perhaps struggling to make a draw in this position. But yeah, just inexplicable move, king h1, after playing a very good game. And I think the rest was pretty straightforward. I didn't have too many issues. Just simplify, eliminate the counterplay. You can see I was taking care to defend d7 whenever possible, bring up the king a little bit, force your opponent to make hard decisions like simplifying or losing further material. Yeah, and it was over after that. So some important decisions, though, to check with the engine. Let's do that now. So consulting the database would probably be the most constructive thing here, because there is some theory in this line, but I'm just kind of curious what the engine thinks concretely after d6, because d6 really caught me off guard. And like I said, this was the first moment where I felt like I didn't respond in the best way. So yeah, knight takes b5. I was thinking either bishop a6 or queen a5. Both would be pretty normal Benko Gambit stuff. Now, let's say I played bishop a6 and white goes back to c3. Now we're in a mainline Benko stuff here, so I can play d6, and just to kind of show you what black often goes for in the Benko, here's a sample line. So we're fianchettoing our bishop, we're castling. White's castling by hand in this particular instance here. And now I've played this position a few times with knight g4. So angling for this. Black usually goes queen a5, rook f to b8. You start generating pressure down the a and the b files. The computer tends to like white in these positions. White is up a pawn, but black has a compact structure. So just one continuous pawn chain. Not a whole lot of weaknesses. Usually boils down to, can black generate enough counterplay against these queenside pawns before white stabilizes and eventually rolls them, or sometimes even breaks through in the center. So that's sort of what I was planning if knight takes b5 was played. Go for something like that. But yeah, d6. And what does the engine say? It says bishop b7, queen a5, also e takes d6. It likes this move the best. Yeah, that was not my first candidate. I don't think I considered bishop b7 at all. So if takes, now play queen a5 check, force the knight back, and then take here. Okay. Yeah, it's a bit abstract and sharp already. What about my move, e6? Really does not like e6. It says e4 is a pretty good move for white here. e4, e3. He took the pawn, and I did force him back. Okay, bishop g7. Yeah, knight e4 was another option here, but I felt better about playing knight e4 only after my bishop went here. But in hindsight, given the knight d2 idea, maybe I should have considered it right at this moment. Bishop g7, and yeah, knight d2 is a good move by white. In fact, according to the computer, the only move that gives white an edge, or at least avoids being worse. So that's nice thinking. It covers the diagonal here a little bit better, quite a bit better actually, so knight e4 is not working anymore. White can actually take it with either knight. Yeah, knight d5 is maybe one move I should have considered here. So trying to attack c3 just from a different angle. Because yeah, then after takes and takes, there's this pin on the knight. Yeah, knight d5 might be a better option. So I played, also the computer says bishop a6 is reasonable. I played bishop a6, which seemed normal to me to stop knight c4, but yeah, this knight b3 move is pretty strong. Eval now going up for white. Yeah, even bishop e3 here is good, but knight a4, strong. Queen c6, knight a5. Yeah, I wasn't even sure what I was going to do if white played knight a takes c5. I'd be gambiting a couple pawns here. Knight a takes c5. Computer advocates for knight e4, playing for the initiative, trying to open things up, but that also looks a little sketchy to me. So knight a5. Ooh, okay, so I see queen b5, according to the engine, is all right. So what did I miss here? Queen b5, bishop d2, and I was talking about this e3 move. I really didn't like that. It says, okay, now it's changing its mind a little bit. Sometimes you got to give the engine some time to work. Now, those are solidly positive evals for white. Knight e4, like how does this interfere? e3, c4. I don't get it. If bishop takes c4, queen f5, that's a very computery continuation here. Queen f5, swing over and threaten mate. Just still a mess of a position, quite honestly. Even though it appears I'm winning material. I guess knight takes d2 might be a threat, followed by bishop takes c4 and rook takes a4 at the very end. For example, if white castles to safety, take here, and now these knights being lined up on the a file come to tell, and I can get this move in. Yeah, given the time situation and the tenor of the game here, I don't think I'm likely to find that line. So queen d5 instead. My opponent traded. And knight takes c5. Okay, so bishop takes e2. So it seems like I calculated that all right. Oh yeah, was there another line I was going to look at? Bishop takes e2 here. Bishop takes e2. I was saying I didn't like it because of queen b3. The engine determined that was a lie. Sound like I'm on the Maury show right now. The engine determined that was a lie. Queen a6. And yeah, again, the knights being lined up here is a problem for white. Okay. Yeah, so bishop takes e2. But yeah, this is another line I was not sure about. Knight takes c6, bishop takes d1. Oh man, knight b6. This is a lot to process. Knight b6, yeah, hitting the rook. If the rook is driven away, this knight is hanging, the bishop is loose. White has an edge, apparently. Just a mess of a position, guys. Now, if I wanted to make this video an hour and 30 minutes long, like I'd probably investigate those lines. Don't get me wrong. And, you know, if you have a game like that, it can be very interesting to investigate those lines. But for the purposes of streamlining this analysis and making this more digestible, I'm going to skip that. Also, I have to go somewhere very soon. But, yeah, very messy position. Not the type of game I want against a lower-rated player. I'll tell you guys that. Like, I would much rather make it a bit more calm, use my experience advantage. When it's this sharp, and sharpness being described as a situation where every move is important and the evaluation can turn on any given move, lots of tactics involved, the chances that something go wrong and that a low-rated player beats me, I think, are greater. They might lose faster in some situations, just I can outcalculate them or things like that. But generally, when I'm playing down in rating, I prefer to operate from a sound strategic base, not try to make it too crazy. And, you know, when you play an opening like the Benko Gambit, you have to be ready for sharp stuff. So should have known what I was getting into. So here we're back to the game continuation. This bishop takes e2 move. So, yeah, bishop takes e2, rook takes a5. And he backed the knight off. And now I did say that I felt like I was stabilizing things a little bit. Let's just look at the middle game here for a second. Yeah, I did mention a tactical point here. If I take on b2, then I think white can just play rook a2 or rook b1. Yeah, and I have both these pieces under attack. Note that white does not want to play bishop takes here and this, because then if they take my bishop, I can take here, and maybe white's still even doing okay here, but at least I've evened up the material. But yeah, bishop takes b2, rook a2 is why I didn't go for this. So rook a7, rook b1, rook b8. Yeah, now I thought the move white played was pretty good, a4. Actually, now the eval is starting to turn in my favor. Yeah, a4. Okay, and interesting, the computer says bishop takes b2 is playable here. And then just drop this back. This rook is defended. Yeah, I was kind of worried about losing the momentum if this happens. Looks passive, but I guess this threat of f5 and bishop takes d6 is something that always gives me nice play going forward. And if I stop the a-pawn, that's the most important thing. Yeah, also the immediate f5 is playable. Okay. So this move is probably questionable. Rook ba8. Yeah, I could definitely see why that didn't do a whole lot. Especially in view of bishop d1, which I think is an excellent move by white. Knight c3 is another decent move according to the computer. Ah, knight c3, okay. I wonder if knight c3, because let's just say there's a trade. Okay, it wants to take with a b pawn here. Yeah, and if there's a capture, this bishop b5 move at the end of the line might be annoying. Hitting the rook and the knight. And then white might have ideas of taking and then pushing the d pawn. Yeah, so I think this rook b to a8 move was unwise, and I probably would have been better off taking or pushing f5. But white played bishop d1, also seems good. And then bishop e5, trying to prepare f5. Okay. Engine says the best move is f5 here. Bishop e5, bishop f3. Okay, now here I didn't take a4 because I thought rook takes a4, rook takes a4, rook takes a4, knight c5 looked kind of nice for white. But is that really the case? Let's explore. Knight c5, I can drop back here, defending d7. Yeah, I guess another case where looks are deceiving here. And even though white can take and double isolate my pawns, this d6 pawn is still falling in the end, it seems. Okay, yeah. I was hesitant to allow him that, but it seems all right. Knight d4, though, seems fine, too. I just wasn't sure if he went back to d1 here, what I was going to do. Just control the forward squares that the knight can jump to and guard a4. Was really not sure. Maybe f5. f5 and go after that pawn, but knight c3. If I don't win one of the A and either the A or the B pawn, it's going to remain sharp, and I'm going to have a lot on my plate to contend with here. So it does seem like rook takes a4 was a better move there. Knight d1. Then he played bishop e3, and yeah, it doesn't appear to be good, but it cost me some time. Again, I didn't play rook takes a4 because of that knight c5 move coming up. This variation. Just was not thrilled about allowing something like this. Yeah, computer's not impressed again. Yeah, because here, rook a7 is maybe more dangerous with this alignment, but I guess I am on the bishop all the same. So even here, it's probably fine. Computer says, don't worry about your d-pawn. Just play rook h4 here. I guess I can always scoop this up, and probably also able to stop the b-pawn. So with time kind of dwindling here, I traded that bishop and then took, probably the most straightforward route, just took on f3. I was thinking about knight c2 or knight b3, but I wasn't sure. Like, say, knight c2, rook a2, just was not sure how this is going to play out. The computer wants to grab this one. I think for most humans, grabbing the a-pawn, trying to eliminate that is what you're going to do. Knight takes e3, just at a glance looks dangerous because he's got the discovery here. I let these pawns survive. So you guys are definitely seeing, like, this is the type of game where the computer is going to have a lot of tactical insight. And again, if I really wanted to explore it, I would slow down and try to absorb every single tactic possible in the position. Very sharp game. But yeah, not a game where the human understanding is largely going to trump the computer analysis most of the time. Like, sometimes I do disagree with what the computer says in a strategic position, and I have my biases as a human, but in these lines, like, a lot of times you're deferring to the engines when you're analyzing them. Doesn't mean you shouldn't analyze them on your own, but the engines are going to find so many things that you do not as a carbon-based player. Even still, though, I can say that, like knight b3 in time pressure looked a lot less clear than doing this. And if g takes f3, just trying to pick off one of these pawns as soon as possible. So, yeah, had white played that, looks like f5 is the way to go. Yeah, f5. f5 try to take here. I think I was mentioning that in the game. I wonder if white can play f4 against this. Kind of a counterattack. Keep the knight on e4 defending the pawn for a moment. Yeah, again, there's possible simplifications, stuff like this, but white has this a pawn surviving. Also, I could take on a4 here, but then, maybe I run the risk of this b pawn being dangerous and just running when my rook is not in a great position to stop it. I'm not sure I like this line. Knight c5 also on the way. So, yeah. f5, even g5. Computer's suggesting g5 probably to control f4. f5, f4 definitely looks like a critical line here. Bishop g7, according to the engine. Knight c3. I can take and then try to take here, but might be better to keep the tension. Engine just wants to bring up the king. Okay. But yeah, baffling blunder by white, king h1, and I don't think there's a whole lot to analyze after this. I didn't ever feel like I was letting the advantage slip anywhere. Oh man. I did not even notice that this was possible. Okay. Great game, John. Real great game. Really following up that 5 out of 5 session the other day extremely well. Yeah, this is justified, fortunately. This tactical sequence. And again, white cannot take here because of rook a1 with mate to come. Okay. Wow, adventurous game. Definitely felt thrown off by the opening and some of the difficulties I encountered with this knight d2, knight b3 maneuver. So, yeah, not my best effort. So thank you to MrQuest for the game. I'm going to send him the analysis of this. I still feel a bit confused about what happened just tactically, like some of these lines. I think this is a weakness of mine sometimes, is playing complicated, messy positions. I know that's hard for everyone, but these are the positions I feel least comfortable with in chess. So something to work on. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will be back again soon with another video. Bye, guys.